After Mayor Tecklenburg's withdrawal letter to the State Infrastructure Board and Elliot Summey's announcement last week, I speak exclusively today with Dana Beach of the Coastal Conservation League for a special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. Dana, it is so good to see you again.
Thank you, Quintin. Thank you for coming back.
Anytime. 3 or 4 times already.
Right,
yeah.
right. Keep doing it.
I definitely will. Let me just talk to you actually about the obvious, because Charleston Mayor John Tecklenburg has withdrawn his I-526 proposal to the SIP board. Let me read to you a portion of the letter. It states this, quote, "Dear Chairman Graham, thank you for your email last Friday, October 21st, 2016, in response to my asking about the possibility of the State Infrastructure Bank SIP board meeting before the November 8th election. Now, with less than 2 weeks to the election, I am interpreting your response, I don't think so, as a no." Why no in your mind?
Well, there were so many problems with that letter in the first place, the one that Mayor Tecklenburg and Elliot Summey sent. It was outside of the bounds of what the county council had approved for the use of the half-cent sales tax.
Right.
And so certainly Mayor Tecklenburg and nor did Elliot Summey have the authority to offer what they were offering. So at the basic level, it doesn't pass the test of credibility. They couldn't deliver what they were offering.
Wow.
The council had never discussed the $150 million overpasses, and as you know, I think also the SPA was responsible for building those overpasses, not the taxpayers of Charleston County.
Right.
And I think the other point is that even if the money had come back to the county, it didn't change the dynamic that required another $300 million to be invested to build the road, minimum of $300 million, and which money was not identified. So I think it was not a pig in a poke, that the SIB was being asked to buy. It was a pig in a poke that was on life support.
Wow. And let me talk to you more about the letter, because he went on to say this, quote, "The September 15th proposal, including contingencies related to the upcoming sales tax referendum that is on the November ballot here in Charleston County. Because the SIP was apparently unable to meet before that referendum to entertain the proposal, I feel that I must withdraw it. Rest assured that notwithstanding the necessity of having to withdraw the proposal, I remain fully committed, that is, to working with you, the SIP board, and Charleston County to resolve issues related to the IGA positively and thoroughly to enable the completion of the extension of the Mark Clark, which is critical to meeting transportation demands to the community that we face. I am confident that the phased approach we propose is achievable." Is that achievable?
Under no scenario I can imagine that it is it achievable. As I said, the project cost is now estimated to be more than $700 million. So that's the first fact. The SIB funding is $420 million, minus what they've already spent on environmental permitting and right-of-way acquisition.
Right.
So that leaves a shortfall of $300 million, which no one has any idea a source for. And I mean virtually no one. And in spite of Elliot saying that Senator Leatherman had promised that $300 million, which even Senator Leatherman, in all of his power, does not have access to.
Right.
So the project is not viable financially. But the other point, and maybe the one we've certainly tried to make it, but I have to admit we haven't been very successful, is that if you ask the simple question, if you have $750 million to spend in this region, what would you spend it on? Very few people, except the most doctrinaire, would say that 526 is where it should all go. I think most people would agree that there are a variety of projects where we need it, including bus rapid transit, including the flyover at Main and 17, including doing something about Highway 41 in Mount Pleasant.
Sam Rittenberg.
And Sam Rittenberg. There are so many needs that are not expensive, not controversial, don't require extensive permitting, and the lead time is not a decade, but a year or two. So I don't know how many times and how many ways that has to be said, and maybe it will never be perceived or apprehended by Mayor Tecklenburg or Elliot Summey, although Elliot did say in the meeting, when he had, now people know what he said in the meeting, that he agreed with that. We thought he actually made a lot of good sense when he was saying that he did not think 526 made sense, and he wasn't a supporter of it. And that was in the tape that Nick's 526 released. Right. So anyway, the upshot of it is there are no permits for the project yet. It hasn't gotten final documentation under National Environmental Policy Act. There's no environmental impact statement. There is a shortfall now of the entire amount of money, but even if the SIB money came back, there would still be a shortfall of $300 million. Wow. And so the question, at some point I hope we will ask ourselves, and I hope we will answer it in a rational way, is do we want to spend the next decade fighting over a road project that cannot be built and that would sap all of the available funds for the region, or do we want to move forward with the improvements that can be done right now that will improve the lives of people today? Not just, in some fiction of West Ashley, but in North Charleston, in Mount Pleasant, on James Island, all the other places, people who walk, people who bike, people who don't have enough money or prefer not to drive a car every day. I mean, there are all sorts of things that we need to do. And all I can say, and I've said this before, is that at our peril as a region, we continue down this path of fighting over this silver bullet that's been promised by politicians who ultimately are trying to build a road for developers.
Let's turn to Elliot Summey. As you know, he basically said, last week that is, that he basically will not seek chairmanship next year when that time comes, but he will remain on Charleston County Council. When I interviewed Paul Tinkler, who's a former Charleston City Councilman last week, he said, hey, it's time for Elliot to step down. Do you agree?
Well, I have to say, this is going to sound like a strange answer, but I have a certain appreciation for Elliot. He's a practical guy, he works hard, but he simply was not, he did not seem to know where to draw the line in telling one story to one group and one to another. I mean, I think it's unfortunate. I think it's unfortunate that somebody who does seem to have a fair amount of energy, and he's not, he's somewhat knowledgeable, I think. Really ultimately should step down because he's so compromised himself in the public eye. His credibility is shot, and I think maybe taking a few years off is a good thing for him. Again, it's unfortunate, but I think that's he has sort of laid his own bed, and unfortunately going to have to lie in it.
And you talk about the Nick's 526 tips. Obviously, he made some controversial comments about certain members of the Charleston County Council. When you think of that, what sticks out to you?
Well, there are two things. One is, as I said, I thought a number of things that he said made a lot of sense. They were candid expressions of his point of view about 526 not being a project that really warranted the level of investment that we were talking about making, and also supporting bus rapid transit, those kinds of things. I think Elliot, he seems to not have much of a filter between the brain and the mouth, and he said a lot of things that were, unfortunate about people others on the council and in the legislature. I think that's too bad. I know I'm sure he regrets saying it.
Well, Dana Beach, it's always good talking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you, Quintin.
I appreciate this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.